You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, well, hello, everybody. I'm Eric Vansel.
And I'm Daryl Sanders.
And, of course, as always, we are your hosts for this show. We're glad that you guys can join us because, hey, we got a good one tonight, right? We are actually going to, and you got to give us a background on this. Did you come up with this?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I didn't come up with it. I found it.
You found it. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so you'll have to give us a background. I know that there's some possibility, there has been talk of maybe them doing an actual project that might see Vader and Maul basically being pitted against each other. That's how much I know about it. But
yeah. So essentially in the upcoming series Shadow Lord, there's a possibility that there's going to be a confrontation between Vader and Maul.
Okay, so it was in the Darth Maul series, Shadow Lord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember. Now, that's animated, right?
You know, I have to... I believe so. Yeah.
I'm so glad that we actually prep for these shows.
Well... You know how it is, like, you think you kind of know something up until the point when somebody asks you, then you just completely forget. It's one of those moments. But, yeah, I
think it is. I think it is animated. Of course,
so.
If anybody's watching this, I realize that we're not only are we a day late, but we're like an hour late. You know, we're
and $1 short.
Yes, we're streaming a little bit later, but you know, sometimes we get people. Still, I know Ted. I should put this up. Well, I should put this up. He says, "Have fun, guys. I'm tapping out early, but my money is on Vader for all the reasons. May the Force be with you all." Which actually, I mean, and that's something that we should probably actually discuss, maybe start out, because it is interesting. First of all, the context of how they're going to do this. There's room for it because, again, remember, when the Obi-Wan series came out, everybody was all up in arms because they're like, well, wait a second. There was that whole line, you know, when I left you, I was but a learner and all that other stuff. And there were some things in A New Hope that people were just like, okay, it bothered them. And one of the things that I had always said was, well, if you really listen to the dialogue closely, especially when Obi-Wan tells Luke that, you know, he's more machine now than man, it's sort of like, well, how would he really know that? Because he wasn't even really aware. It's almost like there's a lot of things in A New Hope that could almost imply that he faced him at some other point. So, I mean, this could actually have a very similar thing, right? Where conceivably Vader and Maul face each other. I mean, it would be almost inconceivable when you consider the fact that Maul was around for such a huge chunk of time between episodes 3 and 4 that he wouldn't, at some point, run into Vader and face him. Mm-hmm. Especially being the head of Crimson Dawn, you know, that we learned in Solo. So, I mean, I personally would be completely up for this. Again, they have to handle it right. You know, I mean, I think that you also have to handle it delicately. I hope they don't just put it out there. But then again, I really like the way that Filoni handled the Maul versus old Obi-Wan duel in Rebels, where obviously old Obi-Wan, you know, kills him. I thought that was really well done, actually.
Yeah, well, we know, like, if they do show a situation where Vader and Maul are pitted up against each other, we know the outcome already, because Maul can't die in that situation, even though under normal circumstances that's generally what would have happened. But we know he can't die because Obi-Wan has to kill him, because otherwise that would negate what you just said about the whole situation. So we know that much if that's the route they choose to go. But it will be interesting to see how Maul will escape Vader if that's the case.
Yeah, I don't understand how they're going to make that work, actually. You know?
Well,
I
The
mean, I
whole
don't
thing
know.
is-
It just seems a little strange to me, I think.
Well, I think the premise of it is, from what I've seen, is that this is, of course, as they call it, during the dark times, and the dark times is pretty much the space and time between episodes 3 and 4. I guess it could be found somewhere prior to Rebels. But like I said, I think, like you brought up before I even get really into it, like I think it's going to be very interesting on how they're going to do that, because what was it? That Clone Wars episode that they brought back where it overlapped parts of episode 3.
Oh yeah,
Right? That was Clone Wars, right?
yeah. That was actually season 7. It was like the final season.
Season 7, right?
And it wasn't just a little. I mean,
I mean, it was a good,
big chunk of it, and that was where we saw Maul face off against Ahsoka.
Right. But that's when he also realized that Anakin was the Emperor's new apprentice that he was talking about. So that's when he comes to realize, like, oh, this is who he really wanted, and you don't know that. And he kind of felt that in the Force, like he felt that shift where now Anakin has entered the dark side of the Force realm. So it has to take place after that, which makes sense because then now.
Well, I mean, you're bringing up a good point here. It's like we don't even really know when this is going to take place. I don't even know if we really know when the series is taking place.
Well, that's what they keep referring it to as the dark times. So presumably this is after the events of Revenge of the Sith. And this is, I'm guessing it has to happen between episode 3 and Rebels. So it's probably in that span of time.
Well, it would have to be.
Yeah,
because Rebels is where we see the demise of Maul, obviously.
Maul.
And I mean,
right.
it just stands to reason. You know, and probably more. I would actually probably put this around the time of Solo if I were a betting man, because that's when Maul is fully in the whole Crimson Dawn mode. That's when he's really, I guess, at the zenith of his criminal underworld powers, if you will.
Yeah, because it says here in the article, it says, during the dark times, we know Maul was running the crime syndicate Crimson Dawn. Likewise, exclusive footage for Shadow Lord shown at Star Wars Celebration 2025 saw Maul not only dueling with the Imperial Inquisitor Marok, but potentially even training his own apprentice. So that's what draws Vader out.
Because and that could be. And actually, that was supposed to, if you remember, that was supposed to be the plot of Episode 7, according to Lucas. He was going to have Maul be the main bad guy. Luke was going to train Kira, different Kira. It was basically Rey, but named Kira. And Kira is spelled differently, too, by the way.
Yeah.
Than the Kira that we know from Solo, yeah. So, and then Maul was supposed to be the bad guy, and he was supposed to train the apprentice Darth Talon, who was a female Sith stand-in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's some precedent set for this. So, I mean, I would imagine that because that went unused, maybe that's something that they could do and lift, you know, for that whole thing.
Yeah. And so that would make sense of why Vader has to now deal with Maul, because one, you know, Palpatine would probably sense that in the Force and was like, okay, we're here, we're doing our thing, and like, okay, yes, I know Maul is still alive, but he's doing his Crimson Dawn thing. Fine, he's taking care of the little, you know, day-to-day nitpicky crime crap, so I don't care anything about that. Mm-hmm. As long as it doesn't interfere with what we got going on, whatever. Sure, he's a Force user, but he's not like he's a light side guy, so again, he's not really bothering us. But I think that's when it becomes a problem, though, is now Maul is trying to train an apprentice. And because he's the former apprentice of Palpatine, that is problematic. Because now, if those two wanted to try to go up against he and Vader, against Palpatine and Vader, now you have a problem. Because now you have two people fighting for the crown. Well, four people, really.
Well, all right. So this, of course, is going to beg the question, because there's a lot of speculation that we can do here. I mean, I think that we probably did well in setting up the scene, right? Like, okay, this is probably how it's going to come about. But they're going to have to see. This is kind of a mixed bag because on one hand, yeah, Vader obviously is going to be the guy that wins.
Obviously.
I mean, I don't really think that anybody... I mean, I know that there were fanboys early on, especially around the time the Phantom Menace came out, because, he's jumping and leaping and doing all this stuff, all these acrobatics, that there were some people that were mistakenly saying, oh, he could probably take out Vader, and it's just like... But I don't really think that too many people are making that argument now, because, of course, we've seen more of Maul. We've seen his complete story, actually. I mean, other than little pockets like what we're about to see in the Shadow Lord series. And we've actually seen, in an indirect way, a comparison between Maul's powers and Vader's powers, such as they were, around the time that we're talking about. So, I mean, I don't know if anybody has a differing opinion in the chats or, in the comments if you're watching after this live stream. Certainly put it in there. I mean, we would... entertain the idea. I mean, if somebody says, well, you guys are thinking of this or whatever. But I don't know. I don't really think that anybody is necessarily out there going, yeah, I think Maul would actually win on this one. I don't think that anybody is doing that. But you do have to wonder, given that, how are they going to frame this and actually create the kind of tension? See, here's the thing that was interesting to me. When they did the Anakin technically Vader Obi-Wan battle in the Obi-Wan series, they really ran into a similar problem because of something that you brought up a million times. We already know the outcome. So it's like, how do you actually create tension when you already know the outcome?
Right.
But they managed to do it, and I think that that's something that they need to repeat when they actually do it here. That, yes, they can conceivably have a Maul-Vader matchup, which is something undoubtedly we had always wanted to see and thought that we were going to be relegated to, like, the What If series or, something like that. But, I mean, you really do have a shot at doing this through this series, but it has to be done correctly, and there has to be a believable opportunity for that to happen.
Well, I think what happens and I agree with you first and foremost, 100%. I think, at least if it were me creating this, it would have to be to the point of, like I stated, that you have Maul running around doing his, Crimson Dawn thing, and it's fine so long as it's not interfering with the Emperor's plans, whatever he's got going on.
Right. Yes.
That's when it becomes now it's like, okay, we have to do something about it. I think they'll probably have tried to dispatch maybe some troopers or something like that. That didn't work. So then it's like, okay, let's take it up a level because we know he's a Force user. We know he's powerful. Let's send maybe a couple of Inquisitors, not just one, but maybe a couple of them. And they had mentioned like Marok, because he was one of the, he was the one in the Ahsoka series.
Yes.
The one that fought Ahsoka, right?
Yes.
So he was the one that they said that he was. Let me go back. I think because I was looking to confirm, and yes, it is animated. By the way,
I just did that myself, and yes,
Sam Witwer is doing. Doing
the voice. Although, to be fair, he did do the voice in the live action Solo thing too. So I mean, it could have gone either way if you're just using the Sam Witwer thing. But and it's going to be a similar animation style to what we're used to in the other shows, and it's going to come out at some point in 2026, and it's going to feature They were actually saying it's going to feature his rise in the criminal underworld. So I think what we're going to get here is we're going to get him. Like, I don't know where they're going to pick it up. Are they going to pick it up maybe after he
maybe
hits
solo
his legs
like,
and or whatever, and kind of picks it up from there? Is it going to pick it up at some point from where like?
I think it's supposed solo.
Well, no, I don't think so, because
was he the head of Crimson Dawn?
He was already the head of Crimson Dawn. Well, I mean, kind of. Yeah, he was, because the whole trip in Solo was you thought that Dryden Voss was the head, and then when he was killed, and everybody kind of thought, oh, Kira now is probably the head, and then she's all like, kind of doing her whole what is it, my that bidding my master thing. And it's actually Maul. It was like, that was the big moment, right? Like, everybody's like, whoa, he's the head? Okay, so I think it's going to actually cap at or just before Solo, and it's actually going to start, it's almost like an origin story. It's actually, what it's probably going to be like is an expansion of, which, it was Tales of what? The one where they showed,
Tales of the Sith?
No. Where they show what's his face's origins and how he Cad Bane.
Oh yeah.
Where you sort of saw him as like a little kid, and and then of course it was almost like the typical gangster thing where one friend becomes a gangster, the other friend becomes a cop, and then they have to like face each other and maybe kill each other or whatever. They sort of did the same thing with the Cad Bane story, but the point is they showed Cad Bane's rise in, the criminal underworld or whatever, and so maybe they're going to do that with Maul.
Yeah, and that would be cool. I think that would be, and I think that's where you can start chronicling the tension that you were talking about, because it's like, okay, there's this new crime syndicate that's kind of taken over. And there's a new person that's kind of rising up, and now they started hearing about this Maul guy, and Palpatine knows who he is, so he's kind of like, okay, he hasn't gotten to the point where we have to deal with him yet. Let's just see, and then it gets to a point where that happens.
I mean, because Vader has been known to use the criminal underworld a lot to accomplish different things. It could start out where it's like, hey,
Yep. Hey, Boba Fett or somebody,
Yeah, you're like in this role, Maul. I mean, maybe we can work out a deal or something.
Well, see, I mean, that might happen, but I think that might cause a conflict of interest, like I said, with Palpatine, because I'm always thinking about, because Palpatine is always the one pulling the strings, and he knows that Maul at his core, even though he kind of abandoned the whole Sith thing, at his core he's about revenge. So, because Maul he's basically was designed to kill. Like, he was designed basically to kill Jedi. That was his whole purpose. Just like Savage Opress, right? So, I think in this, but now Maul has wisened up and realized, oh, I got played too. This could make, this could cause, issues for me. But I can see Palpatine kind of orchestrating this because he's always trying to test Vader. 1, loyalty, 2, power. So for me, like, I could see him, okay, Maul's starting to rise up, and then he was like, all right, whatever. But then now there's things that they're doing, the crime syndicate is doing, that may either cause him to like, hey, you're stepping out of your lane a little bit, you're kind of getting into my stuff, or you're kind of screwing with the things I'm trying to do, and we can't have that. I'm going to dispatch some people to see, okay, where Maul is. All right, here's some troopers, or maybe a couple of people from the criminal underworld that Vader may have been commissioned to, hey, Boba Fett, Aura Singh, or somebody like that, Bosk, go deal with these guys, just, and take this Maul guy out. But they all come back dead. Okay, we need to take it up another level. Let's send some Inquisitors now. They come back. So Palpatine's like, Vader, will you just go deal with this guy, please, and get him out of my hair? So I think that's how you finally get to the point where, like, okay, now you have apprentice versus apprentice. And because what's going to be interesting is because apparently this is supposed to be probably more lightsaber driven than force driven, which the fans really would love to see. That's why we're here, right? Because we know Maul, how cool he is with the double-bladed lightsaber, but we all know that Vader is very formidable as well. The key is that Maul's style versus Vader's style. And Vader's style had to be adapted because of the suit. So now we have to figure out, like, and I think that's where a lot of fans might try to edge one off with Maul, because it's like, well, Maul's kind of perfected that, what is it, Euro, almost kind of, or gyro style, which is basically like Form 7. And Vader, he was more using the Jedi style, but then he couldn't use that anymore. One, because he's a Sith, and two, the restrictions of the suit doesn't allow him to do a lot of those movements. So he almost kind of had to pull like a Mace Windu in a way and kind of create his own Sith style that would fit him. So that would be interesting, because we didn't even get that with the Obi-Wan series when he went up against Third Sister. Because he never really used, I mean, he used his lightsaber, but he was just playing with her, like doing 2 swipes at her. Mostly he just uses the Force to, disarm her.
Yeah, that was his main thing. But I mean, I think that when you're looking at this whole Vader versus Maul thing too, I mean, it is important how they lead into it, right? I mean, because the other thing I wonder too, well, I also wonder if they're going to bring Black Sun into this whole thing too, because that's another organization that I think they may have.
Is that the one with Prince Caesar?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know if they're going to make him in particular canon. I know that Black Sun has been mentioned in some of the canonized novels, like some of the new canon stuff, but I don't know if Caesar himself is going to be canonized, or if they just lifted the name of the organization. But you have to wonder, are they going to bring that in, and Crimson Dawn is basically rising up to compete with that, or the Pikes, that kind of thing, right? And then of course you have the Hutts. The Hutts always have a stranglehold in certain regions. I mean, the thing is the Hutts generally are in the outer rim. Yeah.
Yep.
And so they basically stay in their lane. They don't get too involved in anything outside of the outer rim. At least not too much. A little bit, but not too much. I mean, if they need that done, then you hire a Boba Fett or a Bosk or somebody, IG-88,
or
something
Han.
like that. Or Han. Yeah, at one point, right? I mean, that's... now that's getting into a little episode Force thing. But you pretty much have a situation where you could start to show, okay, Crimson Dawn is rising up, Maul's the head of this thing, and it's like, you know what? First you're showing the struggle and everything of him just starting this thing. But then you're starting to show the conflict between his Crimson Dawn and then the other more established criminal organizations.
Yeah.
And maybe Vader plays into that somehow. And I mean, I do like the idea of
I could see
testing
that.
him, But
still. I could see them playing like Maul against, like them pitting different, almost kind of like how you see in like a lot of those gangster movies where like they'll set the other gang up to fight to war with another gang. So it's like, look, one of them is going to take the other one out. So, but we think that this group has the firepower and the manpower to actually take this people that's a thorn on our side. Well, we'll just get them to do it. We'll just make it seem like, hey, these people are trying to infringe upon your territory, or they killed the person from your family. It wasn't us. And now it's like, oh, okay, so now you have the gangs warring against each other, and we can just kind of coast along and do our own thing. You can show that, and I think that part would create the tension and drama you were speaking of. So now Maul finds out, like, well, who told you that? Oh, the Empire said it. Makes sense. Okay. So now Maul gets irritated with the Empire. The Empire is irritated with Maul because, he keeps stepping into their lane or causing issues. But I think it's also the fact that he's also training his own apprentice. That's a key thing, because now
Well,
you
if
starting to
that's
have
the case, I mean, we don't know if he's actually training now. Of course, that was a storyline that was supposed to be for episode 7, but we don't know. Because I'm trying to remember even from the comics, right? Because a lot of the War of the Bounty Hunters and all that actually took place. Well, it took place actually after The Empire Strikes Back, where Han Solo's frozen body was basically stolen from Boba Fett. Because, we think, okay, Boba Fett got his, Han frozen in carbonite, put him on his cargo hold, took him straight to Jabba. He ended up on Jabba's wall. But there's actually a whole lot that happened between that we find out in the comic series. And actually, I haven't read, because they went from War of the Bounty Hunters, and there was like Crimson Reign or something. It was like, and I don't know if they actually continued that story thread or not beyond that. So that would be interesting if they did, because I haven't read it, and it would be kind of cool to see. But I think ultimately, you have the seeds in place to where you can explore all these different options. Because here's a third one. This is the first time that we've actually had a Force user be the head of a criminal organization. That's going to give them somewhat an advantage right out the gate. It's kind of like, sure, he could deal with his bounty hunters and all that other stuff, but I mean, Maul could just go out and pretty much devastate anybody he wants.
Well, this is actually the second. I don't know which came first, the chicken or the. Well, this will be canonically, he'll be the first to do it, but he won't be the only one to do it, because Kylo technically did too.
What?
With Knights of Ren. Knights of Ren were kind of
yeah,
like
but Knights of Ren, kind of. They weren't really like an official. They were really more like a roving gang than an actual organization.
Yeah, they weren't an organization. He's more like, they're more like a.
Just like a gang. Yeah, exactly. They're just kind of a mercenary group that wasn't really necessarily. Yeah, right.
More like street gang.
Yes, exactly. That would probably be the closest thing to.
As opposed to a mafia.
Right, where Maul is basically the head of an actual organization. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's basically, pulling the strings. Because remember, he had Dryden Voss as his, kind of his, like, I guess,
it's almost
figurehead.
Like his,
yeah.
Yeah, figurehead. He's basically...
right, because everybody thinks that Dryden was the one. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's just one of those things where you kind of wonder, like, okay, because, again, there's all kinds of different things that they could do when they explore this, besides all the stuff that we mentioned. And then going into Maul being a Force user, yet being the head of a criminal organization, you can then go into, you got to wonder, like, you have some of these other Force factions, too, like the Night Sisters, and they're the ones that basically resurrected him. Well, how do they feel about all this? Right? Because they had their own reasons for bringing Maul to be. Now, granted, it was kind of for Palpatine, but you have like all these different outlying groups that are indirectly affected by Maul, or would have at least a stake in what he does during this time period, that you can really start to get some compelling stories going.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the storytelling in this is vast, like you said, because there's so many different ways you could tell it and you can focus on that. I think, like you said, are very compelling. My question for you would be, so just if we're just talking about style wise, like just if Vader and Maul basically turn on the blades, let's just go for it. Style wise, who do you think will win? Or who has an advantage?
Well, and a lot of this is going to depend on when exactly all this is taking place, because if it's early enough in episode, like just after episode 3, Anakin's at a complete disadvantage because he's still a little clunky in the suit and he's still trying to figure it out. And in fact, even though they didn't make the whole like Darth Vader novel, which was actually one of the last novels written right before Lucas sold off Lucasfilm, so it's one of the last Legends novels. It was really good. I was really hoping that they would just canonize that whole novel, but they didn't. But they did seem, when you read bits of Lord of the Sith, which was a canonized novel, you see that he did start to basically go after like weaker Jedi or something to just kind of get his strength back, right? To kind of practice. And there was one in particular where it was like he almost lost. You know, he almost lost to some like Padawan. You know, and here is and it was such a blow to his ego because it's the great Anakin Skywalker, but now he's at a disadvantage. So, depending on when they would place Maul, and I would say in order to make it somewhat of a fair fight, you would almost have to put it a little bit earlier, because any later, it's like you said, I mean, you know, a lot of times I think people go by the movies as far as like how Vader is with a lightsaber, but if you actually go by a lot of the animated shows, even like the Obi-Wan series, you know, the comics, the novels, stuff like that, I mean, he was completely devastated. There's no way in the world that Maul would even be able to stand against him. Now, saying that, Kira believably fought him and survived. Of course, I think part of that is that Vader was letting her, you know, I mean, he basically wasn't trying to kill her. But, I mean, so you could do something like that, because if Maul serves Vader's purposes and he figures, you know what, this guy might be worth a little bit more to us alive than dead, then he would show restraint. So I think those are the two scenarios you have to look at. Either he's like, you know, I don't really want to kill this guy. I got to defeat him, obviously, but I don't want to kill him. Or you put it earlier to where he's not quite mastered combat in the suit yet. That's what I would think.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily see too much of a way out of that, because there's just no way.
Well, I think because we know for both characters, you know, they both draw from the dark side of the Force, right? But I think it's, you know, I mean, obviously we know Maul has to lose, but we know he survives. But the thing is, it's like, I think it's kind of where Anakin has more self-hate, but Maul is a rage monster. He's kind of like the Incredible Hulk in a way, where the angrier he gets, you know, it's kind of like anger drives you on either side, but his anger is more of a uncontrolled rage. Whereas,
which he learned to control later on, because that was one of the things he was trying to teach Ezra. Because that was actually one of the things that made Maul's whole journey really interesting, was the fact that once he let go of the whole Sith thing, and obviously he was betrayed by them, you know, by Palpatine and everything, and, you know, he didn't have any love for the Empire either, because, which I believe is something else this series explores, how it's different than what he thought it was going to be. And it's showing how he's coming to terms with that. Like, hey, you know, I mean, I kind of thought this was going to be a little different than what it actually is. So that has come out in articles that, hey, this is what's going to be explored in this series. So, given that, I think that we're also seeing a little bit of a different Maul. Somebody who, you know, still has the anger and all that, but it's more controlled. So it's not so much like uncontrollable rage. It's more like controlled rage and hatred, which now puts him a little bit more on par with like Vader's thing.
Right, because Vader has more. His is more self. He has more hatred towards himself in a lot of ways, because he realized he was duped, and he's angry about it, and he's angry that, you know, half his body's floating in the sea of lava on Mustafar somewhere. You know, it's just like, you know, and he just watched him lose everything that he ever wanted. Like, he lost the woman that he loved, he lost his unborn children, so he thinks or at least child that he thought he was having. So, there's a great sense of loss and dread. And so now it's come to like, which form of, depression is strongest in a way, right? So I think that's what makes this also a compelling thing. Now, style-wise, like you said, Maul is very good at what he does. And this is the thing, though, for Maul, I think this is going to pose a challenge for Maul. Not just because of, Vader being, who he is, being powerful. However, it's the fact that Maul was always trained to combat Jedi. Jedi, have a very predictable almost style, right? So if you have Ataru, you already know, okay, this Jedi uses this form. So, okay, I know how to combat that. Okay, this Jedi uses Dimso, so I gotta, go against that. All right, I know how to, combat that. But now you're going against somebody who's a lot like you, and you're not really prepared for that, because with the Sith thing, it's kind of like they don't like to be predictable. Because even we've seen it with the Inquisitors when the Grand Inquisitor was training. Was it Barris Offee? That's the Padawan, right?
Yeah.
When she was training her,
probably is, because I think I remember that was the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, and he was saying like you're so predictable, like you have to stop thinking like a Jedi, right? So that's the thing, is like, but as a Sith, your movements kind of have to be erratic in a way. So it's harder to predict, and I think that's what's going to be a challenge for Maul.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to look at the fact that I think the whole reason why the Sith fighting style is the way it is because they're aggressive. It's a total offense thing, which is not the Jedi way. So, I mean, obviously that is going to lend itself to something a little bit different. Not to mention the fact that you have Vader now, like you said, that because he was a Jedi, he's somewhat combining some of that with the whole Sith way. So it's kind of a hybrid.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you look at a possible Maul versus Vader matchup, I mean, Maul never had the benefit of being trained like a Jedi. He's trained to fight Jedi, like you said, but he's never been trained as a Jedi. So therefore, he doesn't have a lot of those techniques. Where Vader, on the other hand, has a whole lot that he can draw from. Now, again, part of the problem, though, is the fact that the suit is hindering him. So it's not like when he was, Darth Vader out of the suit, like when he had freshly just turned into Darth Vader, that's when he was going to be at his most detrimental.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, he's more than made up for that with Force power. Because, again, I would encourage anybody, too, to read a lot of the Darth Vader comics and everything like that. I mean, some of the stuff that this guy has done, some of the opponents that he's fought, including monsters and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's insane. And also the insurmountable odds. I mean, he's taken on, like, entire armies, basically, by himself. So, it's one of those things where when you look at anybody, there's no way. I mean, you even look at somebody like Count Dooku, who was another apprentice of Palpatine, who was who was a Jedi. So he would actually have some of the same advantages that Anakin did. But the thing is that, I mean, even Dooku at his zenith, I mean, if he were to fight Vader, like, fully realized, okay, yeah, he's in a suit or whatever, but still, I mean, aside from the fact that he technically lost to Anakin.
Yeah, I was like, you lost to Anakin.
You lost to Anakin as a Jedi, right? Like, but I mean, when you actually factor in the Vader part of it, there's just no way. There's no way. And I mean, honestly, Dooku probably would have beat Maul as well, because Dooku's power of the Force was, like, insane.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And it just once again just shows you again how powerful Sidious is, because when you look at his apprentices,
Well, I
you're
know.
like, yeah, these guys are no slouches at all, and Palpatine is still more powerful than them. So you're
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
I mean, anytime like they get out of line or whatever, he just,
yep,
instantly like just waves his hand or something, and uses some insane force power on him. It's like, yeah, I mean, it really does give you an appreciation for how powerful he is. That none of these guys would have like any hope against him.
even when they showed it in the Clone Wars when that battle when he popped up and fought Savage and Maul at the same time,
Oh yeah,
and he pretty much killed them in that battle. And I was just like, and he was laughing while he was doing. That was just the crazy thing. He's all cackling and just like, I'm like, man, this is just a
well, I mean, if
unfair.
you think about it, he was probably really happy to just be,
Doing something out of the
yeah,
office.
exercising it a little bit,
Like,
because
yeah, I don't have to.
when you stop and think about it, yeah, it's like he could drop his pretense a little bit and just be himself.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when you have to, if you have to adopt like an ultra reserved type of demeanor at work or something,
Yeah.
and if you had to do that, like say you're working 7 days a week, you're on like retreats, you're doing all this stuff to where you just have to maintain this, and it's just like, to
You
just
get a
be able
vacation.
to, yeah, and to just be able to
Yes.
relax and not do that. I mean, I would imagine that would be a similar thing. Same thing when Palpatine fought the Zillo Beast. It's like he had to pretend to be scared of it and like he couldn't do anything to it, and let all these guys who are like incompetent deal with it, to where he was almost killed by it a few times. And at some point, he was just like,
All I have to do is just
like at some point, I might, well, because, everybody could be like, oh, but it would reveal his plan prematurely. Yeah, so would dying.
yeah.
So it's kind of like in order for him, to save his own life, he might actually have to do. Now, of course, it didn't turn out that way, but it could have very well been that way. And so I think in a lot of cases, that's why you have this almost insane glee that he had when, he's able to go out and fight and basically be himself, be
Right.
Darth Sidious and actually be battling opponents. That must be nice.
We're approaching October. Halloween is right around the corner, and I just want to say, I've always marveled at, especially like in the Clone Wars, when Palpatine, he's playing the doddering old man, but then he have these brief moments where like he'll switch, and you can tell like the Palpatine showed up. Just the looks that he has on his face and the voice is very creepy. Like it's very haunting. Like, no, please, Anakin, you must do this. Do it. And you're just like, whoa. It's like he just got possessed by something
Oh, yeah.
real quick, and then he'll just go back to, no, everything's fine. You just like, wow, this guy is truly like a master of his craft. I mean, it's just
Well, that's why I
phenomenal.
still say that at some point, we really need to get a Palpatine origin story.
Yes.
I mean, if
think
you're
that-
going to do something and you want to bring a classic character into it, then give us that. Give us Palpatine's rise to power, basically. Or at
Yeah,
least rise to where he was, when he was at the Senate, like when he was initiating the plan.
Mm-hmm.
And really, you could even go beyond that, right? There's no reason why you couldn't overlap. I mean, look at what Tales of the Jedi did with Dooku and, kind of showing a little bit behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Alternate scenes from episode 2, like when Yaddle or something went
That was awesome.
and tried to
I was-
talk to him and everything. I mean, look at how much richness that added to the whole lore.
I wanted so much more. I want to keep watching. Like, no, give me more. And
I know.
but yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you have great stories, and that's all cements your point when we're talking about this. It's like creating that tension because we know these characters have to die, or we know how these stories end for certain characters. But how do you still talk around them or feature them and still create a tension there where you almost are led to believe that, you know what, they may make it out of this. Knowing, but you know full well
Right.
that they're not.
It's kind of like the way that I sort of felt about watching Titanic. You know, you're
Yes.
kind of like, all right. I mean, granted, there was like a bunch of survivors actually, but I mean, you know, you're still going, hey, these two might actually get out of this alive.
Like, you think they're actually going to be the survivors, you know, and they're not. And you're just like, wow.
One was, but yeah.
Well, one was, yeah.
But I mean, that's exactly, or even more to the point. I remember, you know, when the iceberg hit and all this stuff. It's like you're almost going, you know, maybe they could actually do something and get that other door to shut, and maybe they could salvage the ship or something. Like, even though you know historically what actually happened,
That
there's
ship
still a
has to
part of
sink.
you, right, that's pulling for, you know what? Maybe you could do it. Maybe you ought to slow down a little bit, and you know, I mean, and that's kind of the same case here. And I understand people that say, look, we don't want to keep going back to the well with all these incestuous projects where it's like, where it's almost becoming Lion King 1.5, where it's like, oh, let's look at episode 3 from, you know, the perspective of Bail Organa or something, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
It's like, I get that you don't necessarily want to fall into that trap, but at the same time, like in Tales of the Jedi, where you had that Dooku story and that just, you know, the Dooku Yaddle thing, and, you know, you saw a little bit of Palpatine's interaction with Dooku during that time, during the time of episode 2.
Even his relationship with Mace.
Yeah, right. I mean, it just, there's just a lot that you can explore, and I think you have to balance not necessarily predictably going back to the well, but at the same time, exploring stories that do merit their own projects.
Yeah.
And that's where I think that we are here with the whole Vader thing, right? I mean, when you look at a Darth Maul versus Vader matchup, obviously, a lot of people, I think, would just scream, oh, here we go. You know, Star Wars is in trouble. they gotta like
break glass
somehow,
and grab Vader, grab Vader out the case.
It's like, all right, here we go. We're gonna like pound the circle into the square hole. We gotta like force this thing, no pun intended, you know, to fit, and just milk another story out of it. But there really is a plausible. Not only is it plausible, but it's believable when you actually look at everything else that has transpired between episodes 3 and 4, particularly with Maul's story, which they continued in Rebels, and they didn't have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you look at Solo, a Star Wars story, and you see, okay, he's the head of Crimson Dawn, and, you know, he's definitely a prominent figure, because in a lot of ways we were led to believe that he had somewhat of a nomadic existence, right? That he was just kind of out on his own doing whatever, and it's like, no, he ends up being this really prominent figure in this criminal organization. Well, there's like a gazillion stories in that. In fact, that's what they were trying to make Solo 2 and 3 about.
Yeah.
You know,
we saw a little bit of that in
in
Clone Wars.
Yeah.
When we saw him with the First Watch. It's the First Watch? Or is it Death Watch?
Oh. I think it was Death Watch. And I know he took over Mandalore for a while.
The Mandalore, yeah, that's what I'm saying. When he took over
like
Mandalore.
well, that's what I'm saying. It's like there's all this stuff that he did in the Clone Wars series. And then in Rebels, he starts to just, you know, obviously he's looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but then he's, you know, now he's training Ezra. Now he's, I mean, he's prominent in virtually every era. I'm surprised he didn't well, I guess he couldn't.
Well, he wasn't even thought of at the time for the original trilogy. But yeah, but I mean, that's the thing. And to your point, I think this is also where you're going, is the one thing is that you don't want to make this feel like a, one of those YouTube things, you know, where, hey, I wonder what would have happened if, you know, they have one with Batman fought Darth Vader or something like that. You know, it's let's just have one of these little these crazy matchups, right? It's not like we're just shoehorning a fight between these two. Like, how can we make these guys fight? Like, no, there has to, and if you're going to do that, if that is your intent, fine. However, you need to make it believable and make it, don't just have them walking through the woods one day and they see each other, oh, and ignite lightsabers in this battle. Like, that's just stupid. I mean, actually craft a legitimate story around, if that's what you want to do. You got to craft something that's believable, that's engaging, that's going to, lead up to it. Because, as we always say, the story is key. Without the story, there's no tension. There's no, there's nothing that's really binding this thing together. It's like a sloppy sandwich. And it's just like, okay, your hands are just full of stuff, and it's just like, ugh, this is just so messy and sloppy that you don't even really, it's not even appetizing for you. But if you actually craft it in such a way where, you're going to have these two meet. And like I said, Maul, like you said, Maul has done some considerable things. I mean, he came back, chased after Obi-Wan. He's took over Mandalore. He fought Ahsoka. He's done.
You could say
he's unraveled the Emperor's plan the whole time.
He's probably achieved more than a lot of the other main characters in this thing.
Absolutely.
He's
that's what I'm saying. He's almost better than a lot of the Jedi. I can tell you that much. So, and that's what I'm saying. So
himself in situations, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that if they, if this comes to pass in Shadow Lord, even the name of it sounds cool.
Yeah, it does.
And it's so fitting for him. But yeah, if that comes to pass, that'd be really cool.
That would be cool. And I think there's one more possibility that they could explore if they really wanted to do it. If they wanted to veer away from the whole, hey, you're running Crimson Dawn and there's some sort of a conflict and then Vader has to step in. That's probably what they're going to do. But there is one more possibility. But before I get to it, David actually joins us. He says, hello, gentlemen. It's Star Wars Day. Daryl got the fresh cut. Sorry I'm late.
Yes, I did with my lightsaber.
Yes, exactly. But there is one more way. And essentially what they could do is, if obviously you had brought up earlier the idea of Palpatine testing Vader's power or something like that, you could almost have a repeat of the Return of the Jedi throne room scene, but it's essentially Palpatine, getting Maul and Vader there under false pretenses, basically. And then, of course, they have to battle it out, and it's almost like Palpatine retesting, right? Because the other way, too, is that if he sees Maul as enough of a nuisance, because the whole key is going to be, and it doesn't even lie with Vader, it lies with Palpatine. Does Palpatine figure that Maul actually has a use? Or does he see him as not necessarily a threat, but as basically a nuisance that needs to be taken out? Yeah, exactly.
Like you're just in the way.
Yeah, you're in the way, and I can't risk having you. You're a loose cannon. So it's one of those things where he could orchestrate that. Now, that's probably less likely, only because that would imply more of a duel to the death. And obviously that can't happen because neither character dies.
Right.
So there is that. All right, now David is chatting in here. Basically says, Redface got cut in half in that movie, so I don't think he'd beat Vader. Is someone trying to make a show movie with them fighting? Well, look, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you're gonna have to watch, and we need the watch hours anyway. So you're gonna need to watch the beginning of the show for that, because we're kind of like at the wrapping up point at this point. But I did want to mention that because I think that would be another plausible way of having them face each other.
Yeah, I got you. But the short answer to your question, David, yes, there's a possibility that in this new animated series, Shadow Lord, that's coming out next year, there may be a instance where Vader and Maul fight each other, and it's interesting for a lot of us because they both were apprentices and they both are powerful and great fighters. So that's why it will be very interesting. It's almost like if Bruce Lee and Jackie Chan got together in a fight, and it's like, oh, who will win? This is kind of like one of those moments.
Right, or say like, oh, I don't know, Dom versus Hobbs.
I knew it was those Fast and Furious refs. I mean, you know,
well,
face.
I mean, we had to. Hey, look, I mean, hey, they brought what's his face, Han or whatever, back from the dead.
Oh yeah, yep.
You know, I mean, that's kind of the same. Han is sort of like the Maul of the Fast and Furious. He pops up every once in a while. So I mean,
that is true.
There is that. You just gotta learn how to
tailor it.
People, yes, with their franchises. David says they're going to mess it up. Well,
I hope not.
Yeah, I mean,
I hope not.
Because in animation, they've generally been okay.
They usually win in animation. I would say that's usually a Steph Curry 3-pointer, if you will. There's my sports analogy for the night.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You know, I think that with animation, I feel a little bit better about this than I do with live action. Because obviously live action would have some limitations, but with anime, even though, I mean, look, on YouTube, it's crazy. I mean, they're getting better and better. There's like all these videos now with scenes where these people have just made like either extended scenes or new scenes or something like that, where they actually get Mark Hamill's voice and they animate him young. They're using AI, obviously, but the point is, this stuff is actually really good now. Like now it's gotten, I've seen some that have been made fairly recently, and it's like, whoa, okay, now they're at the point where they're giving us better content than what Disney's giving us. And I'm sure the people at Lucasfilm are looking at this going, all right, we got to step up our game a little bit, because you literally have the technology, especially with AI, that you could do this at home and you can make the content you want to watch, and now these people might actually want to watch the fan-made content more than the official content.
Yep.
So we'll just have to see, where that goes. But the good news is, it being animation, it's probably going to be good. They haven't really messed up animation that much. I mean, you obviously might point to Visions. Which, hey, you know what? It's coming out. It is. It's coming out. Which next month is like a couple of days away.
32 days? Something like that?
Like 3 or 4 weeks from now, yeah.
32 days.
I sent you the trailer, mostly because I'm sadistic like that.
Yes, exactly.
But it'll be fun, I'm sure. It'll be interesting, you got to do your yearly or bi-yearly or whatever it is, where you got to suffer through the reviews of, and I'm not even talking about the audience, I'm talking about you.
I got to call my Coke dealer and
yeah, exactly.
Get enough lines to get me through the episode.
Pretty soon it'll be like, all the mixed drinks that are accompanying.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
I think you were,
to
yeah.
Get me through. Yep.
I think you were making like little cocktails or something. Make the pain go away. All right, David says, how has AI impacted Star Wars, and will it impact you all, the show? Well, I mean, it kind of does impact us, because I use AI all the time, actually.
As do I.
For research, for, sometimes for thumbnail ideas. I still make the thumbnails, but I mean, I let it give me some ideas. I let it basically synopsize, certain content. Sometimes with the description, I'll have it generate tags. I mean, it's not going to really affect the show in a way where you're going to start seeing, or actually those like little Jedi and Sith avatars that we use, that you see sometimes in our thumbnails and some of our other stuff. That was generated by AI. So yeah, AI is affecting our show in a positive way, I like to believe. And yeah, it's going to affect Star Wars. I'm sure Lucasfilm's going to adopt it. Well, they already have.
Yeah.
I mean, they're using it. They've generally used it in more of an audio context.
With
because
Tarkin.
Because they got James Earl Jones's voice. That's really the big main use. They've used it to augment and enhance other scenes as well, with some of the de-aging or whatever. But yeah, I mean, look, there's going to come a time, and it's not too far away. I mean, the thing is that AI, if you actually keep up with it, it's growing exponentially beyond what even the people creating it thought. And it's, you know, I won't get into it here, but there's a lot of really freaky things happening with it too. Yeah. But beyond that, I think that one of the things that we're not too far away from is if they want to do, you know, hey, we want to do something that takes place like right after episode 6, but we need Han, Luke, and Leia. They don't even need to recast. They could just generate Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, and Mark Hamill with their voices and be able to create new adventures. I mean, that's actually what I was talking about. You're seeing that right now. Right now, you go on YouTube, there's certain creators. I mean, some of it's like, there's some people where it's kind of cheesy, but there's a couple of creators out there now that are actually doing it and doing it convincingly and using the actual AIs, using the actors' voices. And so I think it's, you know, going to be time probably, I don't know, maybe the beginning of the year of next year, you know, where we actually did an episode already talking about AI and some of the de-aging and all that other stuff, but it might actually be interesting to do an episode where we, you know, get into technology. Yeah, get into the technology of it. And what would really be cool is to get somebody knowledgeable about AI to actually be, you know, a guest that we can actually interview about it. And, you know, obviously keep it to as it relates to Star Wars. But it could be a really good general discussion to have on this show because it is going to impact all entertainment moving forward. So, yep. Yeah, buckle up, I guess. But that said, you know, what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to a Maul versus Vader showdown? Do you guys think it's stupid? Are you looking forward to the Shadow Lord series? As always, you know, leave your thoughts in the comments section. Leave your thoughts on our Discord channel. Social media at head-to-head-SW on Facebook, Instagram, X. You can reach us pretty much any of those ways. The other thing is, of course, don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. We all know the algorithm likes it, and we live to appease the algorithm here on YouTube. So, and also, I bring this up every time, but hit the notification bell if you want to keep up with our live shows. I mean, if you guys watch afterwards, it's not as important, but if you're one of the viewers that really likes to watch us live and interact with us via the chat, you're going to want to hit the notification bell because, unfortunately, due to our work schedules and the fact that we can't be full-time YouTubers yet, hint to everybody to, you know, pump up the watch hours so that can happen sooner rather than later. But we actually need you to hit the notification bell so you guys are always in the know about when we go live because it will notify you. All right. I think that's going to do it for this week. Do we have anything... Any sneak preview? Anything like rattling around in your head about what you think we should cover for next week? Or
we could talk about the Mandalorian Grogu trailer because we haven't.
Yeah, that's true. You know, we've seen that, and yeah, we should probably. Maybe I could even take the chance and embed it in. You know, it's kind of hit and miss. Like a lot of times, YouTube will actually let us do it, and I think the secret is, did it originate on YouTube or is it on there? So. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. We should do that. We should talk about the Mandalorian Grogu trailer and you know, just all this stuff. Maybe some updates and everything on it. Because there is a lot happening, and yeah, you're right. A trailer dropped, so we should do that. All right, so look for that next week. We'll do the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. With that, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at head-to-head-SW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at head-to-head-swpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.